Test, test.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Torsten and myself, Clemens, are both welcome you to our presentation on Runway Incursion Alerting System. The FS Group and Fraport have actively joined forces to enhance runway safety for Frankfurt Airport. After a short introduction, we're gonna define some basics. We speak about challenges before we start with the RIAS concept, which consists of 3 main items. After that, we're gonna give you an outlook and the next steps. DFS Aviation Services, the subsidiary of DFS Deutsche Flugsicherung with its headquarters in Langen. We are both a certified ANSP in Germany and UK and also provide ATM systems. With more than 20 years of experience now, we are providing configuring ATM systems for towers, for approach and also for centers. We have international offices and around 350 employees. We are your competent partner.
And also very warm welcome from my side, Torsten Astheimer, working with Fraport AG. As most of you may know, Fraport is the owner and operator of Frankfurt Airport, but not only of Frankfurt Airports, we have airports at over 30 locations worldwide, and we're with several businesses and also, of course, in consultancy. We had in 2019, we hosted 70 million passengers in Frankfurt, and we are, as I said, providing consultancy around the world, as you can see. Let me step into the topic of runway incursions, because this is something which is important to most airports worldwide. You can see here the ICAO definition of a runway incursion. So it's an unintended or incorrect presence of an aircraft or vehicle on a runway, basically. But of course, you have different types of runway incursions. There are technical runway incursions where the pilot is just braking 1 meter too late and the nose is infringing the runway protection zone without any danger to other people. But there's also the runway incursion where a vehicle, for instance, crosses the runway in presence of an aircraft, and which is a very dangerous event. So the runway incursion prevention is obviously one of the major tasks in safety management at airports. Why do we have runway incursions? I think one of the major factors are, for instance, complex infrastructure of the airport. So you will find taxiway crossings that go in many different directions, so there is the risk of losing the correct way. You have sometimes poor training of drivers, you have the poor visibility, and all these kinds of effects lead to runway incursions. Actually, there is a minimum of about 2 daily runway incursions in Europe, and that is only the figures that have been published. So this figure also remains relatively constant. So it's a risk that is really very present. But to significantly reduce this risk, you need safety nets, so-called safety nets. So the installation of sensors and so on that prevent the runway incursion and make it an event that is not putting others into danger. But this being said, the runway is a very strange animal, so to say, because it's a split responsibility, whereas it's always clearly the ANSP which has the operation responsibility for the runway. The responsibility for the infrastructure and all the installations such as lights, sensors, whatever, is usually with the airport operator. So installing runway incursion warning system has to be a joint effort between the two, because there's not one who can do it without the other. And this is what we did actually at Frankfurt, where we joined forces between DFS and Fraport, as Clemens has already mentioned, to develop a concept how to protect the runway. And with this, I'm going to hand over again to Clemens for the approach.
Yeah. Let's directly jump into the concept of the runway incursion alerting systems. So our approach is to have three main items. Starting with the infield detection, we will showcase at the very end of our presentation. And we have alerting for the EDCOs in the tower, and also alerting for the pilots and drivers in the field. This allows for immediate actions on both sides, in the tower and also in the field. And in order to give you a brief introduction how we set that up during test and definition, let's have a look onto the next page. So actually, due to the layout of Frankfurt Airport, there's a certain need that a lot of aircraft need to cross the central runway to access the northern terminals. So that's why it's really important to safeguard this crossing. And yeah, it has been said that crossing at high-risk points was stopped and only at allowed positions. So the first implementation of RIAS was at this certain point, and during our test evaluation and now live processes. We did a lot of testing before that one went into operation. So having started with the technical trials in 2017, the target was to assess the functionality and effectiveness of the sensor system, so the system which is built into the field. 1 year later, operational trials started with the idea to assess the alerting for pilots, drivers, and also in the tower. During these two phases, more than 77,000 aircraft has passed this specific point, and yeah, RIAS has been assessed and safe and reliable with a success rate of roughly 100%. Hence, the operational usage started and more locations are about to come to protect and to safeguard the runway crossings at Frankfurt Airport. Let's have a look into the tower area and the integration of RIAS into the tower systems. RIAS is currently linked to the taxiway lighting system, Frankfurt Airport. So whenever a stop bar gets activated, RIAS works in the background as dark and silent. So whenever the stop bar is deactivated and the pilot or the driver is allowed to cross, is clear to cross, RIAS in the background gets deactivated and the aircraft or the vehicle can pass. There's a screenshot from the current ground situational display showing two aircraft. Aircraft 1 currently on the runway and aircraft 2 which is about to cross. But during test cases, this aircraft has crossed the stop bar as it was still activated. An alarm and alert has been triggered for the controller with an audible and also visible indication. Hence, the controller can immediately react, sees which aircraft and at which position has crossed or crossed the stop bar without permission. On the benefit side, 4 items at the lower part of the slide. Yeah, the main target is to prevent runway incursions, of course, which is really important that there is no additional workload for controllers. So the system works dark and silent in the background. The controller is performing its task as before, and the system is just there to support. Of course, operational safety at the airport is increased, and runway crossings will be supported, as I have mentioned, to have a safe operation at the airport.
So let's go back to the sensors in the field and the importance why we have this infield alerting also. Actually, when you have the surface movement radar and the RIAS and GCS, at an airport present, it usually lacks the precision to detect reliably whether the stopper has been crossed or not, because at many aircraft you don't even know where the antenna is, if it's in the front of the aircraft or if it's in the back. So this can even vary between within one aircraft type, between aircraft A and aircraft B. So the ASM/GCS enough is usually not sufficient to detect to safely detect an infringement of the runway zone. So we need additional sensors. Classical sensors are induction loops and also millimeter wavelength radars that you mount on the edge of the taxiway, on the rail taxiway. However, the inductive loops have some weaknesses when it comes to thunderstorms and to electrical fields. So there is a problem with them, and so we have been looking for additional sensors what we can use to safely detect this. I'll come back to that in a minute. But first of all, we also went for the infield alerting. What Clemens has described is the alerting of the controller in the tower, but you have a two-way communication, so the alerting goes to the tower, and then the tower needs to alert the pilot or the driver, which is of course, first of all, is a time lap, and secondly, you have the risk of a communication failure between the tower, between the pilot. So, and as time matters a lot when you have this kind of incidents, you need an additional source of alerting. So you need an alerting in the field. This could either be done by optical alerting, which is the most obvious case. So you see here in this description some flashing lights that indicate that you have crossed the stop bar, or you could also have theoretically an acoustic alerting. All of this will significantly lower the reaction times and increase, let's say, the probability of preventing the infringement. So what we have been looking at now, also with at Fraport and together with DFS, is to keep the concept more flexible and to also develop some additional features that make it usable at all sorts of airports, because we didn't want to have a Frankfurt only system since we operate other airports as well. And so what we were basically looking at is some new sensors. So we were developing sensor technology, earth magnetic field sensors. This is you can see it here. It's integrated in a cable and it's very easy to mount. So you can put it into a little edge in the taxiway, and it detects the earth magnetic field and the deviation of the earth magnetic field in presence of metallic objects. So basically, when the wheels or the engines of an aircraft cross the sensor, you can detect it. And the advantage is you can actually put it into the centerline lighting of the taxiway, so you can have multiple sensors behind each other and have a development of the approach speed, of the speed with which the aircraft or the vehicle approaches the stop bar. This brings also the possibility of having an AI in the background that really detects whether the aircraft or the vehicle will effectively cross the stop bar, or will it brake before, will it be able to stop before. And all of this is then transmitted in asterisk format to the ASM/GCS as an alert. And also what we're developing at the moment is to use the frequency of the marker beacon to activate a voice in the cockpit through the marker antenna, and so you can transmit actually a warning, an acoustic warning into the cockpit in case the stop bar is crossed. All of this is part of a founded research project, but it's all at a very developed stage now, and we're testing it at the moment in a small airfield in Bavaria, in Oberpfaffenhofen, and it looks very good for deployment. So the main aim is to be able to actually deploy this, to have a technology available, a concept that can be deployed, that can be scaled to the requirements of every airport, and that can be integrated with what is already there at this airfield. So it's not that we need to deploy a completely new system, but you can use what is there at the airfield. You can take care of, let's say, the specific infrastructure, of the specific requirements, and we will, and due to the, let's say, cooperation that we have established with DFS and airports, we have the team to successfully, or to talk to the ANSPs and the airport together, and actually we'll be able to help you if you have problems in your at your specific airport or airports, and we have the approach from both sides and the know-how in the background. So actually with this I would like to finish the presentation, and we'll of course be open for questions also after the presentation, unless Clemens, you have anything more to add?
You're cordially invited to also visit us at our booth, DFS, Deutsche Flugsicherung, DFS Aviation Services, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your welcome, and have a good day.
First of all.